Welcome to the Jam Yearbook. I'm Jim.
And I'm Matt.
We're here to take you on a journey through the years as we explore the music in our lifetime and the impact it's had on us and the world we've lived in.
Welcome to version 1996.
Yeah, I'm excited to finally reach this year, Matt. This year was one of the most musically significant years in my life.
Oh, yeah, I knew it was going to be. That was well thought out as soon as we decided that's where we're going. So
Mhm.
we're going to put some parameters in place.
Did I ever tell you that I used to be in a band?
Right there. That's what I'm talking about. I guess we're just going to jump right in. You're going to wait a little bit. So don't worry, folks. I'll hold them off as long as I can. We have to tease story time properly, Jim.
Yeah,
right?
we do.
No,
Yeah, we
exactly.
do.
So we all know how this goes anyways. We got to start with the Reaper first.
All right. Well, I'll get it going. I'm going to start off with Tupac Shakur. Tupac's life was not short on controversy at all.
Oh.
And I'm not going to take the time here to judge him nor praise his work today on the show. One way or the other, it's up to you as a listener. But simply put, he had a major impact on music history and a lot of what we'd be listening to for some time to come in hip hop. He probably had as many enemies as he did fans, and his death remains a mystery today. Paired with the death of Biggie Smalls, who had been considered both a rival and a friend, the end of his life has become one of the most talked about conspiracies in music history. He was shot 4 times, September 7th, 1996, and he died in a hospital bed 6 days later. I don't think the world will ever know what really happened.
No, they won't.
No.
And then Brad Nowell of Sublime succumbed to the all too familiar refrain of addiction. It seems to be a tragic rite of passage for many in music. Sublime had built a large following in Southern California with their energetic blend of ska, punk, surf, reggae, with just a little dash of hip hop thrown in there. He died from a heroin overdose a couple months short of Sublime becoming a huge success in 1996 after the release of the band's self-titled release that contained the hits What I Got, Santeria, The Wrong Way, and Doing Time. He is very beloved by his fans.
Yeah, that's so sad that he died and never got to see how big they got, because to this day, they tour with someone who's come in and taken his place. And these songs today are still listened to on the radio.
Yeah, and those in the touring that they do, it's great because they don't forget about him. It's like a constant celebration of his life.
It is. It is. There's a lot of legacy left behind by those two artists. But okay, Matt, let's get on to 1996 and the great music that was coming out. There's one album that I'm definitely looking forward to talking about.
That wasn't much of a tease. Okay, what album is that, Jim?
That would be the Dave Matthews Band, Crash.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's not where I expected you were going to start, but Dave Matthews Band was everywhere in 96.
Oh, yeah. I liked Dave Matthews before he became the annoying guy that was everywhere. I spent a majority of the early 90s playing acoustic guitar, and he was exactly the kind of artist that I'd naturally gravitate to. His band was incredible. Buford Carter was one of the best drummers, if not the best from that era. Add in violin and saxophone, and it was an amazing blend of musicianship that made up that band. Songs like Tripping Billies is a great example of that. So Much to Say and Two Step. Great use of the instrumentation of that band. And I think everybody got pretty sick of the song Crash. But
Yeah.
after staying away from that song for the past 15 to 20 years, I put it on this week and I could hear the beauty in it again. I was singing along. There was something that was warm in that song to me again. And I realized that I loved that song so much before it just got overplayed.
Mm.
But before that happened, this album got a lot of play in my apartment.
Yeah, I still like the song Crash, and it's one of those ones where when it started to get overplayed, when I heard it come on the radio, I would change the station because I didn't want that ruined for me.
Smart choice.
Yeah, and their instrumentation and musicianship, that's what set Dave Matthews Band apart. There aren't many bands like them. And I did some searching because it felt like it was more than fatigue that was causing all this hate of them. Because I heard a lot of the hate coming from people who are younger than I was. I'm like, oh, that's usually not the way it goes. You haven't been around long enough to get sick of them this quickly. It was legitimate fatigue, but it was from hearing it too much at college parties.
Okay.
And I also read more than one post about somebody just having to be that one guy who had to break out his guitar and play along. People even got tired of the fans just calling it Dave. Hey, let's go listen to Dave. So it just seems like douchey fan behavior soured a lot of people on what's really a talented band.
Yeah.
But in the battle of overplayed bands, I'll listen to Dave Matthews over the Wallflowers or Matchbox 20. I like Sixth Avenue Heartbreak the first dozen times I heard it, but by the time One Headlight came on, that got overplayed. I was already in nope mode. And Jim, did you know that Bob Dylan's son was in that band?
Oh yeah.
Something I'm sure a dozen people a day told you.
Oh yeah. But I was a big fan of the first Wallflowers album, and I still love it. I had the cassette and I used to play it all the time in my car. When we get to 1992, I'll probably talk about that album. It's really well written. And it's not to say that this album wasn't well written as well, but you're right. I never need to hear these songs
Yeah.
again. The one song that just didn't seem to go away, speaking of Matchbox 20, I was shocked to hear this was from 1996, because I swear 5 years later, I was still hearing 3 a.m.
Oh, it must be lonely. But we run into bands from time to time where the chronology seems off. Um, I don't remember it being out at the same time as a lot of this music either that we're going to be talking about. Their second album didn't come out till 2000, though. So I think it was a little bit of a slow burn because it only sold like 610 copies its first week out, but eventually went on to sell 15 million. And that just created a huge wave for them to ride on.
Okay, Matt, but there was one big band that changed the world, albeit a brief moment, and empowered some to stand up and change trajectory. Have you heard of Girl Power, Matt?
Tell me what you want, Jim. Somehow when I say it kind of comes off like Robin Thicke.
You know you want it. People can have whatever opinion of the Spice Girls they want, but it's not going to change mine. They were unique for a time, fun, and had more than a handful of catchy songs. For some reason, I was watching MTV in my apartment one afternoon, and in 1996, I was watching it more often than not again. I remember the video for Wannabe came on. I made everybody in the room shut up, and I turned the TV up. I immediately knew this was different. This was some history in the making right there. And the Spice Girls were huge. Now, Matt, I'm not saying that I'm a casual listener of the Spice Girls. I'm going to go throw them on after the show, but throw them on at a party or when you're on the dance floor and they instantly create a good time.
Was it history or hormones?
It was probably a little bit of both.
did you have a favorite Spice Girl?
I think the best part of the Spice Girls is they were all adorable. And, you could have a favorite one any day of the week. Well, for 5 days of the week, at least.
Oh, how political.
They
They should have came out with action figures.
It was Ginger.
Or dolls. Ginger.
And then it was Baby.
I'd have to agree with you on Ginger. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That got weird.
Yeah, it did.
But I get your point. It's happy fun time music. I know you want it in your life, and you're not alone. I'm sure the Spice Girls were important to a lot. There we go again. It gets creepy. They were important to a lot of people, so I'm not going to bang on it. Besides, usually bands showing up this early in the conversation don't make it to the 5 at the end. There's always the poll, and if that's what people want, it's not just about me. So bring it on.
I guarantee you that we'll get a Spice Girls song on the poll.
Yeah, at least one.
Yes.
There was a lot of happy fun time music in the alternative scene in 96 as well. There was just an explosion of bands in the 90s. In 96 was one of the last years where I paid a ton of attention to it. Not only was it just the number of bands, but all the different styles you would hear on the alt rock stations. The big band revival had died down just a little bit. They were hanging on, but there was a ton of ska bands, Real Big Fish, Aquabats, Goldfinger, Less Than Jake. The Mighty Mighty Bosstones were a year away from their huge breakout, and they weren't going to go away anytime soon. It all fit the life I was living at the time. I had a great group of friends at work. We were going out on our nights off, and during the day we were golfing and hiking. I'd go scuba diving with my soon-to-be brother-in-law. I wasn't playing much music. I didn't have those kinds of friends, but most of the things we did had music at the center. All in the same set on the radio. You would hear Rage Against the Machine. You'd go to Luscious Jackson, Standing Outside a Broken Phone Booth with Money in My Hand by Primitive Radio Gods in any one of the Sublime songs. Then that douchebag asshole Marilyn Manson. And they would even sprinkle in Tori Amos.
And we can't forget Jamiroquai, Eels, Fun Loving Criminals, Scooby Snacks, anyone?
Scooby Snacks. That's a great song.
Butthole Surfers, come on, Pepper.
Pepper.
Yeah, Not a Surf. When we started talking about music for the show this week, you referred to it in our chat as a classic year for alternative music, and you're spot on with that.
Oh, we could definitely take several minutes and just name drop.
Mm-hmm.
And when we list these songs, people would go, oh, yeah, you'd hear all of these in a day repeatedly. It really was a golden age for alternative music. I'm sure the poll for this version will reflect that. It's going to be tricky to keep the poll short and concise and be a good representation of what was
Yeah,
going on in the year, because
it'll be tough.
this is one of those years where we could have easily added 10 songs each.
And
It's
I
not so
bet you,
much that the music carries on with us in our life,
Mhm.
but if you go back to the day, you'll be like, oh yeah, I love that, I love that, I loved it
Yeah.
all.
And I'm sure when we get to our 5 at the end, there are songs I'm going to have to knock down off the poll because people are going to be like, why is that song there?
Oh
Because
yeah.
we couldn't help but pick some of those songs because they were just so big and amazing in their time. I know a lot of people connected more with the first album, but the second album by the Counting Crows, Recovering the Satellites, was one of those albums that was a safe space for me. When I needed to escape from the real world in a quiet moment, I was experiencing a lot of madness in 1996, and the album centered me. I found a lot of comfort in the songs like Goodnight Elizabeth and I'm Not Sleeping. I love the song I'm Not Sleeping. I could pick up my guitar right now and play Along December to you. I lived the lyrics to that song. There's a lot of narrative in that song that mirrored my life. And Angel of the Silences, I'm going to put that out there as an honorable mention as probably my 6th song this week. It hurt to leave that off the playlist. It's one of my favorite songs.
And you're not alone there. A lot of people love Counting Crows. I wouldn't
Mhm.
quite put them in like the cult status of probably like Dave Matthews Band with how passionate their fans are, but the ones they have, the band can do no wrong.
Yeah. I went and saw them, I want to say 2013. So we're going 10 years back now, but it was a phenomenal show. It was a great concert. And I was really happy to finally get a chance to see them play some of these songs.
And there was a big event in 1996 as well. At the 38th Grammy Awards, Tupac Shakur came out for a special introduction. He delivered the following statement. You know how the Grammys used to be all straight looking folks with suits, everybody looking tired, no surprises. We tired of that. We need something different, something new. We need to shock the people. So let's shock the people. The audience certainly looked shocked. It was before they had announced the reunion tours, so I'm sure a lot of people were wondering what the fuck is this all about. But when Kiss came out, they clapped, but it was kind of like a stunned. I don't want to say silence, but it was like, whoa, is this really happening? Who are these guys? They should have just let them perform instead of handing out a word to Hootie and the Blowholes. The Kiss Army lost their mind though. Peter and Ace joined Kiss for a few songs on the Unplugged album that they released as well. So millions of people were having their dreams come true of having the original Kiss lineup,
Yep.
makeup, and all come out. Oh man, this was such a fun show. Kim and I went out to Portland, Maine and saw it. It was really awesome.
Nice.
Amid the celebration of 1996, we have yet one more bone to pick with Weezer. I'm
Poor
just gonna say
Weezer.
it.
Poor
Poor Weezer. One of
Weezer.
these days, I can't wait. We're gonna shine some love on them.
We are.
And all the cool kids can hate me, but Pinkerton sucks. You know, I always thought Weezer was the popular little brother of Pavement. And with Pinkerton, it sounded like they were trying to be Pavement.
Come on. The Blue album, that debut album was so good. You know how
Yeah.
some people like their bands from reaching out to the masses? This album did that for Weezer. And I think that's why the cool kids kind of liked it because they got to hang on to them for a couple of more years.
Yeah, I can see that.
I have friends who cite it as their favorite of Weezer's albums, and I'm with you. I don't get it.
I get that. I have friends that do that too. And I think it's just fatigue of the Blue album.
Yeah, I respect that they tried to change this a bit going into the second album because that's kind of what you want from a band you're listening to. But I'm not a fan of the sound that came from that album. And they alienated a lot of the fans who used to put the Blue album on and listen to it from start to finish. You could do that with the Blue album. That's a rarity at any time. But you can't do that with Pinkerton. It has songs that you can put on, and people will bring up songs, but they'll never say, oh, but have you ever sat through Pinkerton from beginning to end? But I'll tell you this, people
It was
sat,
torture.
yeah, well, people sat through the Blue Album from beginning to end an awful lot. At least, my group of friends did.
Yeah, and over. But you hit it right on the head. The sound on Pinkerton was trash. It just sounded like everything had a blanket thrown over it.
Well, they had stopped working with Rick Ocasek, who produced the Blue Album.
That's true.
They decided they were going to go out and produce it on their own. After Pinkerton was not a success and people did not care for their original sound and self-produced, they had to go back and get Rick Ocasek for the next album.
Yeah, it almost sounds like Pinkerton should have been their first album.
Yeah, it should have. That would make sense.
So, Jim,
Yeah.
I think you used to be in a band.
No.
Wait a minute. Didn't you have an entire podcast about that?
Yeah, I think I did. And that band was Cinderblock Baby. If people have not heard that, which probably is nobody who's listening to this show, they've heard me talk about it an excessive amount of times, and I apologize for that in advance. But you can find it on Spotify, iTunes, and all the streaming services.
It hasn't been uncommon. I think for a lot of people who have known you, you've talked about Cinderblock Baby. Many sentences out of your mouth have started with "When I was in Cinderblock Baby," blah blah blah. That's what people usually would tune out. But here you go. Here's your opportunity on the show. You brought them up a few times, but 1996 was the magic year for them. Here's your opportunity. Why don't you tell us about the band and the album you released?
Okay, Matt. Are we finally going to let me get the real experience I was having in 1996 out?
I will lift the gag order.
Okay, well, crack a beer, kick back.
It's cracked.
And plan to charge me for therapy.
All right, I'm going to go let the dogs out. I'll see you in a few.
Yeah, you've heard this before. It was literally a year where I can say I experienced the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. I had a breakup that I'd struggled to get through. And Matt, I didn't have you there to play Heartbreak Station on repeat. Somebody needed to slap me. Then there was Cinderblock Baby. For anyone who has listened to this show or my previous podcasts or who have known me personally, they already know that this was a significant band and a big part of my life in my 20s. In the summer of 96, we reached the culmination of a year's work recording a CD. We put a lot of hard work into making this sound good. We created dummy click tracks and practiced along at home. We charted all the songs, lyrics, and chord structures so we knew how they were going to be recorded from beginning to end. We practiced a minimum of 5 days a week and sometimes more. And then outside of band practice, we spent most non-working hours just hanging out. I can't begin to describe how exciting it was to open the box of CDs when they arrived. It was incredible. And this is where I want to apologize to anyone who was ever hanging out in my apartment. Unfortunately, we were those "who wants to listen to the album again" guys. And we took
and this is before it was like, "Hey, have you heard my podcast?"
Oh yeah. And we took every opportunity to play it to anyone new who might come around. About 2 months after the CD was released, we broke up. There's no blame on anyone for this. To be fair to those guys, it took a lot of patience to deal with me at that point in my life. I was borderline manic, and I'm not sure they knew which Jim they were going to get from one day to the next. But it was probably the most heartbreaking moment of my life at the time. But I'd like to think it was like a relationship that had so many good memories and moments shared along with personal growth that I wouldn't trade it for anything, that entire experience. 1995 into 96 and through truly were some of the absolute best days of my life. It doesn't take any effort to remember the good times because I never had friends like the guys in that band before or since then.
And this is where that phrase, "we're like a family," comes into play, because you do spend so much time together.
And we are still to this day like four brothers. We have a little separate chat group, and I would say anywhere from 3 to 5 times a week we're talking to each other.
That's awesome.
It's very special.
That's awesome. And I do know my limited experience of being in the studio one time. The guy that was doing the producing, he was like, "Good luck." And I was like, "What do you mean by that?" He says, "Not many bands survive the studio experience their first time around."
Yeah.
Because there is a level of intensity with all of the time that you're spending together,
Mm-hmm.
where shit just comes out.
And shit came out, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's move on with the music. What else was going on in 1996?
We had some new Van Halen with David Lee Roth.
No, we didn't. Didn't he just walk out on stage at the MTV Awards and then they went and made an album with Gary Sharon?
Oh, yes, there was. They released the greatest hits or a best of, however, regardless.
Oh.
And had 2 new Roth songs, Can't Get This Stuff No More and Me Wise Magic. Classic Eddie on these songs. Me Wise Magic, it may have been in a key better suited for Sammy.
Me Wise Magic.
but they're not bad songs. They're
Well,
not bad songs. Can't Get This Stuff No More had more of that kind of like spoken word from David.
okay,
Lee
well,
Roth, the man.
with your, they were good songs. Obviously, they were very memorable for me since I didn't remember them.
Yeah, I'm trying to be nice. It was just nice to have Van Halen back with David Lee Roth, even if it was temporary. It was better than anything off Van Halen 3 with Gary Sharon.
Yeah, neither one of these songs were considered for your 5 at the end.
No, they weren't. So there's a band that I've only heard about in the last few years, Neutral Milk Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
I got stuck on this album this week. There's usually one every week that happens to me. I absolutely love the lo-fi sound that they were doing. Their album On Avery Island, it's pretty reminiscent of the early 2000s indie music I was listening to. It made me realize some similarities in those 2 eras for me personally.
Yeah, they're a good band. I like them. I've heard some of their stuff before. All right, so before we wind things up and we get to our 5, because we need to do this now. We've been chatting for a while. Neither of us have brought up any country music, and we don't really during the 90s, other than maybe a little Garth Brooks at the beginning.
Yeah, no, but we've been showing country a little bit more love recently.
We have, but even though I've never listened to the album, I was scrolling through country music the other day, and I came across Deanna Carter's album title, Did I Shave My Legs for This? And I've got mad respect. I'll go listen to the album just because of the title.
Oh, yeah. We'll have a shared honorable mention for Ween. I think both of us, either of us, would have loved to bring Piss Up a Rope to our 5. But after a fresh listen, the lyrics, while I love them, they still make me chuckle. It might throw some people off.
Yeah, I messaged you as soon as we decided we were going to do 96, and I was like, I get Piss Up a Rope. And
yeah,
then
you did.
And then I went and listened to it, and I was like, no, I'm not picking that for my 5.
No. And then I said, hey, maybe we ought to record us lip syncing or singing that one a karaoke style.
Yeah, maybe that's the right way to do it. Well, if anybody wants to go have a laugh and they can handle some rough lyrics, go listen to Piss Up a Rope and have a good time.
Yeah. All right. So I think that brings us to the time in the show where we get on to our 5 songs.
Yeah, let's do it. I believe you picked 1996, didn't you?
I did. So
So
I will start us
you
out.
go first. Yeah. What do you got?
I'm going to start off with Cake, The Distance.
Ah,
Yeah, we didn't talk about Cake because I knew it was going to end up here. They were a no-brainer this week. Which song it was going to be was a bit tricky. There were so many honorable mentions: Italian Leather Sofa, their cover of Willie Nelson's Sad Songs and Waltzes, maybe Frank Sinatra, but I had to go with the signature song, The Distance. People might be a little fatigued on it because the song was everywhere.
yeah.
But this is like a great representation of what I'm listening to in 96.
This was such a good radio song back in the day. Do you remember hearing that voice just come on when the song would start? And you hear him first. It's so
Reluctantly
sparse.
crouched at the starting line.
Yeah. And then the song just explodes. And while I admire the other songs that you mentioned, The Distance put Cake on the map as a band, without a doubt, who it wasn't just covering I Will Survive, because that was also very popular, but that was a novelty. So a song like The Distance to be probably more well remembered, in my opinion, than their cover of I Will Survive makes it significant. It belongs on the playlist representing 1996.
Yeah, in 1996 is not the year for deep tracks either.
No, it's all on the surface. It's right there.
It's unnecessary for deep tracks.
Yeah.
All right, how are you going to start off your 5?
I am going to start off my 5 with Stone Temple Pilots. And the song is Tripping on a Hole in a Paper Heart. This is my favorite Stone Temple Pilots song. There are 2 things I love about it. The bass line is so unique, and it's busy for a rock song.
Very.
Yeah, the bass, it's the backbone of so many of their songs. And this is one of the best examples here. And second, This song has the best bad guitar solo of all time. It's choppy, and it even sounds like it possibly goes out of key for a moment, but it works, and the song would not be the same without it.
No, it almost sounds like they took the first take of that guitar solo.
Yeah, that's it.
Because
Let's go.
because he probably just was able to harness what he wanted to do on that first one. And while it might drag a little bit here and there, it just kind of fits.
It fits the energy of the song. That song is just energy, energy, energy the whole way through.
It does. And I think coming up with guitar solos outside of metal is a lost art.
Yeah.
You don't, I mean, it's just like writing lyrics for a song.
Yep.
You want to do something that fits well within the melody, but is its own monster at the same time. And he does a great job on it too. And the drumming is great on this song. It fits that bass really well.
Yeah, it does.
The guys in Stone Temple Pilots are really underrated musicians. I know Scott Weiland probably gets all the credit because he's the voice, but the DeLeo brothers have unique styles. And by the time this album came out, they had shown such incredible growth. Eric Kretz, the drummer, is no slouch either. He wrote this song with Weiland.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so and just listen to the drumming, he may have come up with the beat first, which forced the bass to do this really highly staccato driving line that he had to come up with.
Yeah, no, it's great. All right, my first song is in the books. What is your second?
Fountains of Wayne and Radiation Vibe. Just like the title, this song's got a vibe to it. Within the alt scene, Fountains of Wayne was making some of the most melodic, accessible music. This was one of my favorites back in the day, and it still holds up now.
Yeah, this is one of those bands that I think got canceled by the cool kids because they did the novelty song Stacy's Mom.
Yeah, I would agree.
But most of their albums are really good. Even that album Stacy's Mom is on is a great album.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
they just have great rock songs.
Yeah. But Sing to the Bottom was another great alternative radio song off this album. So an honorable mention's due there. But Radiation Vibe, fantastic song. I'm glad you picked this.
Awesome. Thanks. So your second song is?
My second song is going to be Beck, Where It's At. This CD lived in my stereo for a month. It's really cool. And listening back, I didn't remember it for some reason. It seemed a little more uppity and dancey, but then I went back this week to prep for the show and I was listening to it. I didn't remember it really being so mellow and laid back, but how can I leave, 2 turntables and a microphone off the playlist?
That was a good drum break.
It's definitive of some of Beck's best music. Bottles and cans and just clap your hands. The lyrics are incredible. Yeah.
I know why it lived in your stereo for a month. It's very dense. There's a lot buried in the music. You can pick out new sounds every time you listen to it.
Yeah.
I can envision him holed up in a studio, adding all this nuance and everybody else wondering, dude, when are you going to be done? It's fine. This is your signature track.
And I probably thought it was faster because of how stoned I was when I was listening to it. But it was just
I can't attest.
It was just right in that place. It was right in that place.
Yep.
All right. That's my second song. What is your third, Matt? What do we got?
I will go with Tracy Bonham and Mother Mother. Some thought this was a song about being angry at parents when it's the exact opposite. It's about how a kid goes out on their own. They don't want to admit their parents may have been right. And the main reason I'm adding is for the scream of everything's fine.
Yeah. There was a big movement of women artists on the rise with Lilith Fair coming up. Tracy Bonham was right there and raising it up with this song, no doubt. I always liked the acoustic guitar chords and how they sounded on this song. It was kind of punk sounding. And
yes, it was.
The scream in that chorus is a great signature of what she was able to do vocally.
I'm sure she regretted it becoming so huge because she probably had to ruin her voice singing this in concert.
Oh yeah. And it is one of those songs that how do you top it afterwards as an artist? It's just such a signature song, but good tune.
All right. What is your next one?
My next one,
I've lost count and I think it's your
I'm on third. Yeah. My next one is going to be Fiona Apple's Shadow Boxer. Fiona Apple was the breakout female artist of 1996. I could have picked 3 songs off of this album. And I changed out Sleep to Dream for Shadowboxer. Originally, when we picked our 5, I had that in there. And I love the lyrics to Sleep to Dream because I like the whole idea of not wanting to be in the real world. And so to escape, you go to bed and you sleep to dream because you can be somewhere else. But Shadowboxer musically attracts me more. It has that old is new sound. It's got timeless instrumentation. And the only thing I think that makes it alternative in 1996 is the way that Fiona Apple drags her vocal so uniquely through it. I had a lot of time for this album in 1996, and for me, it still sounds good today.
I remember reading reviews for this, and everybody's like, "Oh, she's so far ahead of her time." If that was true, there would have been a lot of music like this following the success she had. It's more of really old sound that is new.
Yeah.
I was surprised how popular this was, but people know good music when they hear it,
Mhm.
and her talent, you got to respect it. She's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so Fiona Apple, that is my 3rd song. What is your 4th, Matt?
I will go with Soul Coughing and Super Bon Bon. Lyrically, this song is nonsense and highly repetitive, but Soul Coughing makes some damn cool music. And Mike Doty, his voice isn't very dynamic, but it's so goddamn interesting. It's full of style and this cool attitude. The double bass adds a certain depth that would be missing in their music if it were an electric.
Yep.
I love all the chaos in the background of this song too. The drums are awesome.
Yeah, Soul Coughing is one of the coolest shows I've ever attended. And this song has been a personal theme a few times in my life when I've needed to stroll through a situation that required that different sense of confidence. Move aside and let the man stroll through. It's
Yeah.
it's awesome. And you're absolutely right about the chaos that takes place in the song in the background. This band is great because of that uniqueness. I've never heard something and said, "That sounds like Soul Coughing," because I don't think that'd be possible.
No, no, they are impossibly unique.
Yeah, they are. Great band, great song. I'm glad to have it there because, be honest, I was kind of hoping that you would pick this song this week.
It's a great there is Soundtrack to Mary was pretty close.
Oh, that's a great song too.
There's
Yep.
just something about there's chaos, but it's also laid back on
Yeah.
the front.
Yep.
Laid back in the front, the chaos. It's a mullet.
Oh, it works though. All
Yeah,
the
it
way
does.
through. Yep.
Yeah, it does. All right, what's your fourth song?
All right. Well, I'm going to go with some hip hop here. And I'm picking Backstreet's song, No Diggity. It's featuring Dr. Dre. He does the intro rap at the beginning. It's fantastic. I like the way you work it. This is one of the best booty songs of all time. Like I said, the Dre rap at the start, it boosts that song right there. And once it listed up there, along with the sample of Grandma's Hands by Bill Withers, it all works together perfectly. There's a lot of drama behind the making of this song. No one wanted to sing it. Tupac even wrote a diss track under his Machiavelli alias called Toss It Up about this song in particular. But it's been rated in the top 100 of the greatest hip hop or 90s rap songs on most of those classic charts that come out. Nobody's going to change it when it comes on the playlist. It's pure 90s hip hop class.
You made me do extra reading for this. I can't believe they didn't believe in the song. Nobody believed in this song. I
No.
think one of the selling points was having Dre do that rap in the beginning.
Yeah. Yep.
I can't think of hip hop in the 90s without No Diggity. It's smooth, it bounces. It took hip hop in another direction. This is a great song.
I think in reading up on it, Teddy Riley, who produced it, actually had sang the chorus and no one wanted to do the song. And so they just kept his vocal in through the whole thing.
Yeah. And I think it was a selling point to maybe Dre that he just wanted to be around when they made a video because of he wrote some of the stuff with Rex and Effects.
Yep.
And apparently the Rump Shaker video was pretty popular with people. So he was wanting that experience when they did the video for this one.
Well, it was great exposure for him. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. That is my 4th song. Matt, it is time for your 5th and final song of 1996.
I'm going to wrap up 1996 with Reverend Hort Heat. It's Martini Time.
Of course you are.
Oh, damn right. 1996. And this album is when I discovered Reverend Hort Heat. With all the different sounds out around this time, it was easy to be open to it. I fell in love with this energy immediately. If Psychobilly ever became a thing, Reverend would have led the charge. It's Martini Time is one of many alcohol-based songs they have. Even when their songs veer into something on the funny side, the musicality is there. Cowboy Love, hey, it may be immature, but it's fucking great. Jim Heath can absolutely tear up a guitar. And if you've ever seen him in concert, Jimbo, you will learn, gets a lot of love from the crowd. For a small club show, I don't think I've ever seen a band as much fun as Reverend Horton Heat.
I was not surprised at all that you brought this to the show. But this was also the first time that I think I discovered them. I had a friend who'd seen them on tour in college or something like that. And I remember him bringing a CD to my place, and it was a refreshing change from everything else that was going on. These guys, though rockabilly, you talked earlier about that whole swing movement that had taken place.
It's not far removed.
And they probably helped prop that up a little bit. Although they moved forward in the coming years, we heard from them a little bit more. We've got a couple other songs on their playlist now, and I think this one right here, "It's Martini Time," is my favorite.
It's a great song. That's why.
Yeah, it is. It's a great drinking song.
It is. It's Martini Time.
Yeah.
All right. How are you going to round out your 5?
All right. I am going to round out my 5 with the band Coolest Shaker, and the song is "Hey Dude." The Coolest Shaker album was on repeat at 212 Pleasant Street when we weren't listening to Cinderblock Baby. I could talk about a few songs from it. I talked earlier about how I sat up and noticed the Spice Girls. It was the same with Coolest Shaker. I was watching MTV late one night and this song came on. It was, probably new music or something along those lines, because I don't think Coolest Shaker got a lot of play in the States. But I just sat up and thought this sounded so cool. It was danceable rock, it had a great groove, the breakdowns in it and the guitar work. This is just another song from 1996 that just exemplifies how great the music from that year was. It was a great year to release an album, if I do say so myself.
Oh, there was so much good music coming out from all directions. I don't know if record labels were still looking for that one thing to fill the shoes of grunge. Regardless, I don't care. Coolest Shaker was great to catch up with this week. It belongs on the list. It's got that classic 90s alt sound. It's one of my favorite songs.
And I'm going to give a special shout out to The Rain in Spain by Cinderblock Baby as an honorable mention.
Maybe you should put it on the poll, Jim.
I don't want it to come around on the playlist. It's one of those things that would embarrass me, or I don't know, not embarrassed, but when you're bashful about something.
Yeah. You cringe a little bit. You're like, oh,
yeah,
Barcelona.
All right, Matt, that is the end of version 1996. I do believe it's your time to wrap it up. But before we do that, I get to pick the next year, don't I?
Yes, you do. And I'm very excited because 1996 has kind of got me a little excited. This was a great year to listen to.
Well, let's keep great years coming. And instead of rolling into the 2000s like we've done on hey, we're going to do a
stay off the
year.
turd bus.
Yes, let's go. Let's go back to the 70s. We've not touched on 1973 yet. So let's go to 1973 and see what magic we can find there.
Oh, I am so looking forward to learning what songs I've known my whole life are from 1973.
Me too.
And what magic that we can dig up.
I'm sure there's some stuff there that will be pretty incredible for us.
Oh yeah, the 70s are an endless well.
Yeah. So we're going to have a couple of good weeks for the poll.
Oh yes, we should. 1973. I'm just going to say it's going to be awesome. And version 1996 comes to an end, and so does this episode of the Jam Yearbook. We want to thank everybody for tuning in, and we want to thank you all for all the participation in the poll on the Facebook page.
Yeah, and if you have a chance and you're listening to this on a app at some point somewhere, give us a rating. We'd love to have 5 stars from you. We'd love to find out you shared it with other people. We just want to reach as many people as possible to talk about music from all of these years. So help us out, because that's how you do it. If you give us 5 stars, we have a better chance of showing up in somebody else's search for music history.
Yes, and we like random listens from people that we don't know.
Yeah. Yes, we do. We've got what, 13 plus countries under our belt now?
I think we just got a new one, Slovenia.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That's great. But that's what we
Yeah, it
want.
is.
Yeah. So keep it coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
but hopefully listens in those sliver countries, go up past the less than 1% range, though.
It's great to have any percentage from any country.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Keep it coming.
Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, thank you very much. Peace, love, and podcast.